Good Monday morning and welcome to H3 TV. We're switching it up this week and we're greeting you bright and early this Monday morning just to start your week off right. H3 TV was started during the pandemic where I recognized people were sitting behind their screens and not face to face and often feeling hopeless and unhealthy and unhappy. And I thought, what if I could interview people and bring some ideas, some strategies on how to stay hopeful, healthy, and happy when we face storms, challenges, and even pandemics. And so I started this weekly talk show to come to you. I so appreciate you being here with us. Remember that you can put questions and comments in the box as we are live. Otherwise, you can put them in the comments below, and we will both try to respond to anything you have to ask us or encourage us. So today I have my guest with me, Sonia. So please help me welcome her. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Annie. I'm fine, thank you. It's a bright and early morning here in California.
Excellent. Tell us a little bit about who are you, what do you do, and yeah, where do you live?
Yes, my name is Ksenia Pola. I'm the head of education and legacy program at ICA, which is the International Congress and Convention Association. And I live in California. I'm in Costa Mesa, just between Newport Beach and Huntington Beach. And there are worse places to live, I guess.
I bet it's a beautiful morning on the beach. So when you think of storms, living at a beach, what do you think of? What comes to mind for storms for you?
So when I actually got that question from you early on, I was thinking we are actually having storms every day. They're smaller or larger. They affect only us, or they affect more people around us, or even with the pandemic, I guess the whole world. And I think storms are just disruptions which we try to navigate through, and but I think also, regardless of the type of storm, our response is probably always the same, which is part of our character, how we navigate life.
How we navigate, exactly. I was listening to a book this morning on my walk, and it was about disruption and how disruption invites us to change. And I think exactly, there's always storms, whether it's category 1 or 5, small storms, big storms, but our character shines from. So I love that answer. So, what has been one of your most challenging storms that you've gone through or faced in your life?
um, and I was wondering which of my big moments I wanted to share with you, and I think I'm actually going to go back very early on. I was about 13 years of age. I just moved country from Austria, where I lived my first 13 years. I moved back to Croatia, where I was born.
Mm,
My sister had moved very early on back, and I just wanted to be with her. So what happened was, as I moved, there was a carnival in town. I went on all the rides. Was super sick when I came home, and my mom thought I had just too much sugar and candy. And it turned out 2 days later that I actually had a burst appendix and ended up in hospital. And my parents returned back to Austria when everything was fine. And my sister picked me up a month later from hospital. I came home, was so delighted. Finally, a life can go on. I can start a new school in a new country, and ended up back in the hospital the same day with a major fever, and suddenly they had to rush me into surgery again, but they could not perform the surgery because there was no adult willing to sign off on my surgery. So I was just delirious with pain and everything. I was begging my sister to sign. She was already 18. And she said, "No, I can't. You hang in there. You have to, mom and dad are on their way. You just have to hang in there." So, but the doctors couldn't wait. So they just cut through my appendix scar. And luckily, it was just so super painful. But luckily, I survived that, obviously.
yeah.
And I ended up in a room, totally delirious from pain, and I wanted to eat something. I hadn't eaten solid food in 30 days, only on the IV the whole time. And my sister was at midnight scouring the entire hospital to get me some food I wanted, and I wanted to eat spaghetti. And she managed to bring it, and I just smelled it and said, ah, that's just so delicious. And I fell asleep and wake up, and there was mom and dad. My mom was like totally white. She was totally gray overnight. And I was like, what happened to you? You see, it's all okay. I'm fine. Um, and this was, I think, a moment for me that also shaped all of my other responses. It's a really tremendous um, moment in life, but you still overcome it, and you smile and go on, and as long as you fight and have somebody in your corner who is pushing you to overcome things, and as long as you're not alone, and we are all not alone, we all have somebody with us.
Yeah. So many cool things about your story. And now I understand why you said character, or we have a character in every storm, is that you developed character and resilience very young. And I'll often say to people, I appreciate the little things because I know how bad they can be. And you were a little girl in a new country, very horribly sick, and then not get, I mean, so many layers to that. But all of that did develop you, whether we like it or not. We don't love those storms, but it developed you with resilience and patience probably and strength and all of these beautiful gifts. I love Croatia. My husband and I were able to visit in 2018. What a beautiful country that we had no idea about. It was the one day opportunity for us, but it was so beautiful there. And I don't know anything about Austria other than my mother skied in the Swiss Alps and she loves Austria. She always talks about Austria was a beautiful place. So anyway, thank you for sharing that storm. And I'm so glad you're here and you're safe and you survived and you have the scar to prove it. How did you stay hopeful in the midst of all of that? It sounds like you had a vision for food. I love that. It makes me laugh. But how did you stay hopeful and hang in there when you didn't have your parents and you're in so much pain?
So I think the at that point it was just really my sister was my rock, and that allowed me the freedom to not take everything so to heart, because I knew it was almost like she was taking some of that burden on her, and she was helping me carry it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things I just tried to be positive about things. I wanted to actually be a doctor at that point because I was going through all of the patient charts, and being very interested as doctors came along, asking them. I mean, that was many years ago, so they may have not have been also very HIPAA oriented, and they were just sharing way too much information with me. So I was trying to chat with other people, trying to give them hope, and saying, "Oh no, don't worry, your chart looks good today, and your fever is down." And so I was just, instead of just dwelling on my own misery, I was trying to just be positive and help other people as well.
I love that. So staying hopeful, you did it by helping other people and also by seeking knowledge. You were like, do you know what a candy striper is?
Yeah, yeah.
You were a candy striper before you were a candy, right? Like you were like the assistant, like you got this. I'm going to cheer you on. I love that. How about healthy? Like you probably lost a lot of weight and energy and mind. All of those things happen when we're physically sick. So how did you stay healthy or get healthy again after that 30 days of being so sick?
Um, yeah. So one of the things I my mom always let me do that because I was a kid who was always out and about. So there wasn't a lot of times. when I was around for food.
Oh,
So she just made sure that there was always food I liked around, whether it was fruit or sometimes even a piece of chocolate, just so I would have that energy and what I discovered early on is that I like to cook.
oh,
So coming out of that illness, I knew I needed to have things I really enjoy. So I started to cook and experiment and yeah, still cook to date because it just helps me find again that joy in life, but also then make something nice for myself or for people around me.
oh, I love that. So you're really talking about partially you stayed healthy because you had community. You had a beautiful support of your mother that not only had something but listened to you and provided what you needed, whether it was fruit or chocolate or whatever. And then you have a love for cooking. Do you have a favorite meal that you love to make or share?
I make a mean lasagna. So it
Lasagna.
must be that spaghetti bolognese still in me, but I think that is my go-to dish. It's comfort food, but
Yes.
it also, I can make lots of it. So if we have parties or anything, I can just quickly put two big pans in the oven and have it ready and still be with all my guests while
I
that is cooking.
Right. It's a thing you can make ahead of time. I love that. So you can be with your company. How about a happy? How did you find happiness? Like that had to be terrifying. I love your story about wishing for the spaghetti that you still love to cook, but you're so tired that once you got it, you couldn't even enjoy it. But how did you find happiness in the midst of this really scary, hard storm?
I think it's also just the person I am, and probably um, the environment in which I grew up. I always try to find happiness, even when it's not a very happy time, because that's the way it makes you weather a storm easier. And I read a book about laughter helping people really with their health,
Yes.
not only mental, but also physical health. And I think that that is something I have embraced. And I always try to find the humor in things, just whatever comes to mind, whether it's a joke or one of my favorite things to do is watch TV, but I movies or comedies,
Yeah.
which are mindless but just full of fun.
Yes, love that. I also saw in you when you talked about helping the other patients, how that brought you joy. So I loved seeing that. I always think when we help other people, when we focus too much on ourselves, it can leave us stuck in that sadness. But I'm like, who else can I help? Who can I make smile? Who can I encourage? It gets us out of that. What are some of the lessons or a lesson that you learned from that storm when you look back, as you kind of said, you had many storms as we all do, and you chose this one. What are some things that taught you about life and resilience and whatever lessons that you still can apply today?
So what I've learned is as long as you fight, as long as you stay positive, as long as you don't give up and lean on others, but also um, it's okay not to dwell too much on your own pain and misery,
Yes.
because that's just going to make it even worse,
Yes.
especially in the pandemic when people were so isolated. The need to connect with others was great. And I think you just need to find a way to connect with people. You don't always need to connect. Like we are connecting now, and we are probably miles apart. But
Yes.
there's always that opportunity, and you can connect in different ways to different people, even if it's just with a phone call or a message or writing a letter. Um, when I was young, there were no phones or emails or internet. When I first met my husband, I wrote him every day a letter.
Oh, beautiful and romantic, like those rom-coms. And one thing you're kind of, I can hear the thread in your story over and over is connection and community, and that we need other people. And so, what I really want to know is when you think about the storms, this one and other ones you've gone through, how do you use them to support other people? because you said we're not meant to be alone. Connected to community. How have you used your lessons, your storms, your strength to support other people?
And so just reaching out so they know you are there, even if it's just a small message every now and then. There doesn't need to be a reason for reaching out,
Mm.
just to tell them, I'm here, I'm listening. If you need me, perfect. I just let me know, or invite somebody for dinner if you can. My neighbor was alone at home, and I wouldn't have known I not invited her for dinner. And she said, "Oh no, my husband is out of town, so I can't come, and I'm alone with the kids." So I said, "Do you need help with your kids?"
Oh,
And she said, I actually could do with just an hour while I get them all ready for bed and put them in the bath. So I brought some of the toys of my kids, which I saved when they were little. And
oh,
I went and I played with the kids while she was having one by one going to bed. But I think that it's the little things. It doesn't need to be anything big.
yeah.
Just the little things can make somebody's life, somebody's moment. It's not life. Just an hour, a moment of joy can help a long way.
Yeah, little things mean a lot, and especially if you're by yourself and you've got kids. Um, how is there something that you is there a way that you learned to soar above? How did you get over this? I mean, I can see little child, which you really were in the hospital having these emergency surgery, a second surgery. How did you get above it? How did you not sit and feel sorry for yourself and "Oh, poor me and my life is hard and get stuck in that? How did you get over that and get beyond that to keep going in life? How did you learn to soar is how I say it.
So I think that's why I chose that story, because it was a defining moment how I reacted in other situations as well.
Yeah.
Because of the high fever and the pain, I felt like I was a little bit of a above my own body. I saw what was happening, and
Yeah.
I was a little bit disconnected, like my soul was disconnected.
Yeah.
And I had that perspective, that bird's eye perspective, saying, "Hey, you got this, girl. You have to fight."
Mhm.
And sometimes you have to disconnect. It's okay not to stay in your body, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's okay just to go above and look at it from an outsider's perspective.
Yeah. I love that. A fresh perspective above.
A fresh
Yeah.
perspective, although it's happening to you, sometimes you can't see the trees from the woods.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to step away from your own misery and see, okay, how are we gonna break this down into smaller, manageable, bite-sized moments, which will not be so overwhelming.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I can see the visual of it. I love that. And you're right. You have to get out of ourselves in a moment, whether it's above or just like step out and serve someone else and stop feeling. So we know right now some of our listeners are going through storms, category 1 to category 5, literal, professional, personal. People are always going through challenges in life. So if you could give them one piece of wisdom, knowledge, encouragement, what do you want to share with our listeners?
I would I would say always ensure that to be positive, step away and lean on people around you. You are not alone. There is nobody out there who is alone.
Yeah.
Sharing with somebody a storm, even just sharing is it's halving the burden, so to speak. So it's okay to lean on somebody. Maybe they can't do anything, but just by listening to you, your burden will lessen.
And it lessens the load. You don't, I think when you're in a storm and then you're just in your head, it makes it heavier. Then loneliness amplifies the storm instead of sharing it, divides the storm, right? Makes it less. So, Sonia, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way? If they want to hear more or be encouraged by you or reach out and encourage you, what's the best place to connect with you?
Anybody who wants to connect with me can do so on LinkedIn, which is just Xenia Pola is my handle. So that anybody who wishes to connect is more than welcome to do so.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with me, sharing your storm, your soaring, your hope, health, and happiness. We need it. I appreciate it. I'm so glad you're here. And just thank you for being my guest today. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Annie.
You're welcome. Thanks to our listeners, and we'll see you next week. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.